State regime media known as Fox was in a total panic mode as Donald Trump returned from Europe, and that NATO visit by him was just an absolute disaster. So, one of the things that seems to have happened was the Queen of the Netherlands, Queen Maxima, may have been mocking the way Donald Trump talks and behaves. So, on Fox, they were commenting on what Queen Maxima did, and they said she's better be careful because she could get a personalized bunker buster from Daddy Trump if she's not really careful. Here, play this clip.
Thank you very much. Actually,
Okay, Charlie, is she mocking him or not?
It kind of looks like it. I mean, I'm not an expert on royal behavior, so.
Well, she's clearly making fun of his mouth. She went, doing the Trump lip thing. And by the way, the White House nor the Netherlands royals will comment on this, but she better be careful. She could get a personalized bunker buster from Daddy Trump if she's not really careful. I mean, she's going to go from Queen Maxima to Queen Minima if she's not standing on protocol in the future. This is a bad look for a royal or anybody, really.
Yeah, or anybody.
And then Jesse Waters talks about how Africa will soon be calling Donald Trump Daddy. Africa will call him Daddy, he says. Play this clip.
she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career, but I said it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside.
Soon Africa will be calling him Daddy too.
More Jesse Waters referring to Donald Trump as Daddy. Let's play the clip.
Democrats are now complaining that Trump isn't sharing all of his intel with them. Maybe that's because they keep leaking it. Now, if Trump gave Democrats a heads up on Operation Midnight Hammer, they would have told the Ayatollah. That can't happen. Daddy hates leaks in the House.
I told you, this state regime media stuff is very odd. Just think about the Fox viewers with their Magamush brain who goes, Daddy, he's our daddy. It's just so weird. Then you have one of the hosts on Fox, Kennedy, and she tells the story. She goes, I live in a really fancy apartment, and I have a neighbor with fancy shoes, and he's got fancy clothes. He's so fancy and rich because I'm rich. And I asked him, who are you voting for? And he said, Mamdani. And I said, oh, you're not going to be able to afford those fancy shoes anymore. How out of touch can you be? Here, play this clip.
That crosses party lines. I have a neighbor in my fancy apartment building who was wearing fancy shoes and a fancy outfit and an I voted sticker. I said, who'd you vote for? And he said, Mamdani. I said, sweet, you're not going to be able to afford those shoes next year now, will ya?
Okay, I get it. You are very rich. You live in fancy apartments. Must be very, very, very nice. That's what a weird way of bringing up news. So then state regime media known as Fox on the Ingraham show brings in that guy Sliwa, the Republican candidate who wears the red hat, who's running for mayor against Mamdani now. This guy is the Republican candidate. And I kid you not, this is what they're pushing. This is what they say. Don't be fooled. The wealthy, rich, white neighborhoods, look at the map. That's where the highly educated white Gen Zers, millennials live. And they would be more happy to pay more than their fair share. Just as you think that would be repulsive, they are cheering for it. So he's saying the big problem is that there are some rich people who want to pay more in taxes to have a great city, and that's repulsive. Here, play this clip.
So he is a full-blown, unabashed communist.
Communist, socialist, supporter of terrorist groups. But Cuomo spent millions of dollars tagging him that way, and it just strengthened him with his supporters. Don't be fooled. The wealthy, rich, white neighborhoods, look at the map. That's where the highly educated white Gen Zers, millennials live, and they'd be more than happy to pay more than their fair share. So just as you think that would be repulsive, they're cheering that. And if you were to say, but that's your neighborhood, the most affluent white neighborhoods, so we're more than happy to pay it.
But folks, the reality is that the very wealthy in our country are not even paying their fair share. And God forbid you talk about rolling back ridiculous tax cuts that billionaires and decamillionaires have. I mean, if you just taxed rich people fairly, you'd be able to fund pretty much everything. You know, you'd have a surplus pretty quickly. But no, instead, you want to attack Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare and food stamps and shut down hospitals. So what? So Jeff Bezos and his ilk could throw foam parties on their massive yachts in Venice, and corporate news can cover it like, oh my God, do you see Jeff Bezos in his boat? Dude, we don't care. We don't give a you know what. Just make housing affordable, pay people with dignity, make sure there's health care for everybody. I don't care about Jeff Bezos in Venice. Isn't it odd, though, that the corporate news keeps pushing it? Look, the Kardashians just landed. I don't give a crap that the Kardashians landed. Anyway, then Fox brings on Stephen Miller, because one of the things that Fox pushes is, you know, even if we know that core inflation rose 2.7% in May, that GDP was downwardly adjusted 2.5% for the first quarter, that jobs are being lost, that consumer spending is down. Like the economic data right now in America, very, very bad. But bring on Stephen Miller to Fox and just let him say, victory! Inflation has been defeated. Inflation is gone. Here's Stephen Miller saying that. Play this clip.
Not only did the tariffs not create inflation, inflation is back down. Inflation has been defeated. So our economy is soaring. Jobs are being created. American workers are going back to work. The labor force is growing again. Inflation is gone. And our manufacturing jobs are coming back to the United States where they belong.
So then Maria Bartiromo on Fox brings in Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Scott Bessent is asked, so when are we going to expect the trade deals, right? Didn't you say 90 deals in 90 days? But now, without any acknowledgement that they're complete liars, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent goes, actually, we're looking more Labor Day now. I think it'll be right around Labor Day, right on target. Right on target. This is my Scott Bessent. We're right on target, Maria. So, Maria, this is what we've always said. It's going to be very difficult to do the trading. Here, play this clip.
What is the next country we should expect a trade deal to do with the United States? Are you going to be able to get some deal announcements beyond just the UK before this August deadline where we're going to hear from the Court of International Appeals?
Maria, you know, with all things, they get done at the end. You have to put on a deadline. You know, as you and I know, nothing gets done in Washington well in advance. So I think a lot of the countries are feeling pressure. As President Trump has said, you know, he's created maximum negotiating leverage for Ambassador Greer, Secretary Lutnick, and myself by saying, like, if you can't get to a deal, he's happy to go back to the April 2nd level. So we have countries approaching us with very good deals. We have 18 important trading partners. You know, UK, China, they are behind us for now. Are behind us. And then Secretary Lutnick said yesterday that he expects 10 more deals. So, you know, if we can ink 10 or 12 of the important 18, you know, there are another important 20 relationships, then I think we could have trade wrapped up by Labor Day. So, you know, we will have taxes and trade, which I think will provide a great stimulus from the economy. And then there's the deregulatory impact.
I'm not sure if I should do those impressions anymore. You tell me what you think in the comments. So then Fox wants to glorify concentration camps. And so bring in Ron DeSantis, the failed MAGA Republican governor of Florida, and he needs some attention, and Fox wants to give him some attention. So Ron DeSantis says, so here's our new camp that we're building. They're literally bragging about concentration camps that they're building. This is what they're talking about on Fox. Here, watch for yourself. Let's play it.
This is going to be, illegals will come in, they'll be processed. There'll be places for them to be housed. You'll have an ability for food. You'll have the ability for them to consult legal rights if they have that, because there is a process that's involved with this. So this is really everything. This is going to be a self-contained little area. And then, of course, you also have stuff for the staff that work here. So we've got laundry facilities, we've got showers, we've got, obviously, there you see the shower and bath facilities.
Yep, right there.
Yep.
Where do you go to get a bunch of bathrooms like that?
Well, so this is being done.
Then Maria Bartiromo's show displays a photo of the Senate parliamentarian while she trashes the parliamentarian who ruled against Republicans on some provisions in Trump's big bill. Thanks, Aaron Rupert, for this clip right here. Watch what went down. Play this clip.
Unfortunately, we have seen the Senate parliamentarian do several rulings that have been counter to the proposals that was in the House bill, which has cost a lot of savings. And of course, this was the largest cut in U.S. history to mandatory spending. And it was a big red line of what we had to do to balance to make sure we had the tax cuts, the spending cuts, and of course, the border security and national defense.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this because we just showed a picture of the parliamentarian. I don't understand how the Senate parliamentarian, one staffer, has the power to force hundreds of billions of dollars in changes in the big, beautiful bill. How one Senate staffer has the power to overrule the House, the Senate, and the President of the United States. How is that possible?
It's absolutely frustrating. This is what happens when the American people don't keep an eye on Washington, Maria, because an unelected individual of the American people should never have that kind of power.
Okay. And in this total dystopian world, the definition of gaslighting, as Russell Dorn says, you have MAGA Republican Congresswoman from Florida, Kate Kammack. Now, Kate Kammack had an ectopic pregnancy. She showed up and the doctors were afraid to help her get an abortion for the ectopic pregnancy, which is the standard of care, because in Florida, you could get prosecuted for it. Why can you get prosecuted? Because the MAGA Republicans made that the law, that you can get criminally prosecuted for murder. But MAGA Republican Congresswoman Kammack, she blames the Democrats. She goes, the doctors wanted to provide the abortion, but the doctors were afraid that they would get prosecuted because the Democrats said that that's what the Republicans would do to them. You see, this is what you're really saying? Watch her say it in her own words. Play this clip.
Ectopic pregnancy is unviable. In my case, I was 5 weeks pregnant. There was no heartbeat, and no ectopic pregnancy is viable. And that's so important because the mother needs care immediately. But unfortunately, women's health care has been subject to the worst politic fear-mongering that you can experience. And so they had actually been receiving, these healthcare providers had been receiving pro-abortion lobby ads to the tune of millions of dollars being spent on these ads that were threatening and scaring doctors away from helping women, saying that they could lose their license, they could go to jail. In fact, in the room, I had nurses and doctors showing me these advertisements, saying that they felt uncomfortable because they didn't want to go to jail. They wanted to help me, but they felt like they couldn't do anything. So I literally was laying on the table reading them the law. And it dawned on me as I was sitting there with my husband, this is what women are experiencing because of the fear mongering around women's health care. And it has to stop. The left absolutely played a role in making sure that doctors and women were scared to seek out the help that they needed. And so I think that this is a wake-up call. My story should really bring forward the national conversation that's long overdue about the lack of maternal health care. And really, I think it's important that we highlight that doctors aren't to blame, women aren't to blame. We need to get the politics out of women's healthcare.
And then they bring on, who's it, Whiny Gaines, Riley Gaines, whoever this is. And Whiny Gaines says, oh, everybody knows Melania is the paragon of style. We all love Melania. Again, this is some bizarro propaganda. Play this clip.
Well, I think English is either her fifth or sixth language, and I think she's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Just saying, on top of being a top model.
Yeah, that's right. I just think the irony, and now the Democratic Party suddenly caring about someone's immigration status, and now suddenly merit matters to them. They have proven, and I think this discourse shows it, that they hate law-abiding citizens. They only like immigrants who come into this country illegally, not the ones who do it the correct way, like Melania, or like my husband, for that matter. She speaks what, like you said, 6, 7 languages. She's modeled for British GQ, Sports Illustrated, Vogue. She is the paragon of style and grace, and has more class in her pinky than Jasmine Crockett has as a whole. I think a lot of her reaction here comes from jealousy. It comes from projection and a willful ignorance to the topic. But that's
She's really defending
another day of
illegals,
Jasmine
though.
Crockett.
Back to Stephen Miller, who trashes the rest of the world and says, "We are the biggest, the greatest country in America." Sorry, I won't do my Stephen. I'll just speak normal. And he says, because we're the largest, if you want to trade with the United States, if you want to access our market, you need to pay a fee. Here, play this clip.
Well, yes. So as the president has said, the United States has the most coveted market on the face of the earth. Everybody wants to do business in America, especially now that President Trump is here. Everybody wants to sell their goods into America. We are the largest, most dominant, most lucrative market. That gives us leverage. That allows us to say to a foreign country, if you want access to our market, you have to pay a fee. That fee, in turn, what will it do? It will pay down our deficit. It will pay down our debt. It will allow us to lower taxes on Americans, as we are doing right now with the Big Beautiful Bill. In other words, part of the beauty of the tariffs is they are paying for the tax cuts in that legislation. Yeah, yes, there will be some deals with countries. The president made a historic deal with the United Kingdom that is a massive win for American farmers, ranchers, and agriculture. And I'm sure you will see more deals in the coming days. I will also note, as is now universally acknowledged, not only did the tariffs not create inflation, inflation is back down. Inflation has been defeated. So our economy is soaring, jobs are being created, American workers are going back to work, the labor force is growing again, inflation is gone, and our manufacturing jobs are coming back to the United States where they belong. So the tariff strategy
last thing.
has been
What
a
about
huge
your
win.
thoughts?
More from Jesse Waters calling Zoran Mandami. He calls him Zoran the Destroyer. Play this clip.
Zoran the Destroyer is about to give Karl Marx a woke makeover if Democrats can't stop him from becoming the next mayor of New York City.
Zoran the Destroyer. Y'all realize that right now in the United States, there's socialism for billionaires? We all know that, right? Like, the billionaires get every tax cut, every benefit, every government handout, every bailout goes to billionaires so they could buy extra private jets and extra yachts. I mean, literally, how much money has Jeff Bezos made in handouts from the government, and Elon Musk in handouts from the government? And you have the audacity to attack someone who wants to talk about free bus rides for the people, who wants to talk about rent control and affordable housing and making sure that people who work, what a novel concept, that if you work a job, if you work 40 hours a week, which is still a lot of time for people to be working, that how dare you think that you should be able to support your family and have a home? No, you must work in service of Jeff Bezos and billionaires. It's so ridiculous. Anyway, here you have Marsha Blackburn, MAGA Republican senator from Tennessee, and here she lies about the disastrous budget bill. Here, play this clip.
You are going to see all of the attention being put on this economic growth. Now, I do want to say, some people say, well, what about Medicare and Medicaid? We're strengthening those programs because if you're a freeloader, a fraudster, or an illegal alien, we want to get you out of those programs and strengthen them and preserve them for the people that they are there to benefit.
I had the exclusive interview also with California Governor Gavin Newsom, who has sued Fox for lying about him. He sued Fox for defamation for engaging in propaganda for Donald Trump and lying and saying that Newsom had certain conversations with Donald Trump when Newsom didn't, and Newsom had conversations a few days before, which is what Newsom said. Here's what Governor Newsom says. He goes, "This is gloves off time. This is gloves off." Here, play the clip.
But what I want people to know is, gloves are off. Let's go. Enough. We're going to stand up. Truth. We're going to stand up for American people. We're going to stand up for people that are being bullied. We're going to have the backs of people that are scared. We're going to use our formal authority. I'm proud to be governor of the largest state in America. Again, I've said this before to you, 21 state populations combined. But we're also going to use our moral authority. And the extent we need to, we're also going to call out the bullshit and the propaganda and the weaponization of lies and mis and disinformation on networks like Fox. And we'll do it in every capacity. On behalf of the people I represent in the state, in an individual capacity, enough. It's time to assert ourselves much more forcefully, with character and conviction, and have the backs of people that don't have the voice that some of us have and the ability to do what some of us can do. And that's what this whole case is about. And we'll continue to stand tall, and we'll continue to power through this remarkable moment in history.
Well, there you have it, folks. Tell me what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
New Midas merch drop. Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.midastouch.com.